Alright, I'ma get into this real direct, no backstory here. Moondrop makes a new IM, and I bought it. After waiting for quite a long time for it to be restocked. Sheesh! And here we are. Today we'll be looking at the Moondrop KATO, Moondrop's newest single dynamic offering. Well, is this the upgrade to your KXSS, Starfield, and Aria? Stay with me here and find out in this review of the Moondrop KATO. Alright, so we've got a big chungus box for the KATO with the print of Moondrop's anime waifu. Fun fact, she's got a name. It's Mitsuki Yuki. Looks cute as usual, though some other people in the store looked at me funny when I was buying the KATO. Deservedly enough. And yeah, here's the KATO's full name. KXSS Advanced Technology Optimized. Of course, you also got some specifications in the back, but I think we know why we're here, right? Slide out that outer case and you get the inner box. Oof, you almost got the KATO text to align, but you didn't. Quality control, Moondrop. Don't skimp out, even on the packaging, guys. So you open these two doors, and you are presented with this plate with some fancy pattern, sort of angled corners, silver highlights, black cardboard. It's actually similar to the Aria's packaging, but the Aria has a sort of a softer line motif, and it's got these sort of bronze or rose gold colored highlights. The other side of the plate is some instructions and illustrations on how to plug the cable into the Moondrop KATO. You might think this is basic knowledge, but I've known many who have plugged them in wrong, and certainly there's enough people who got it wrong that Moondrop had to print this. Alright, so we've got the KATO in their cardboard inserts, and then up top is the Moondrop hard carrying case. I like the looks of this. It's colored blue with a material that is reminiscent of the Sparks case, but it feels a little softer to the touch. And I really like the gray accent to the side here, which gives the case a bit of flair. What I do not like about this case, well, it's a little more subjective, but I would have wanted a case that uses a zipper instead of a magnet hinge like this, because it does leave some gaps where dust may be able to get in. Second thing about this case is that it's kind of small. You can fit the KATO in here if you wrap it well and all that, but it does feel kind of cramped. And thirdly, it is the inner lining of this case. I've bumped up the exposure a bit, so hopefully you can see that it's using a bit of a cottony material, which the cotton strands in here, it kind of rubs against the KATO's housing, and it gives it micro scratches. So I would have wanted the inside filled with a material that is more velvety, so as to avoid scratching. Okay, and now we have this large compartment where the rest of the accessories just kind of strewn about. They could have sectioned it off, but nope, everything just kind of lays in one big slot. Alright, so we have the ear tip box here, again very nicely presented. Inside includes the new Moondrop spring tips, as well as your pair of foamy mist tips, both in small, medium, and large sizes. So, these new spring tips are very similar to Asla Celestex. Using a TPE plastic, they look pretty high quality, and they have grooves on the umbrella parts, as you can see. And then these are the mist tips. They are typical foam tips but have higher quality, and they should last longer than your complete foams. Now we have the soft carrying pouch, which also came with the Moondrop corks. You can check out what I had to say about this in the corks review, also on my channel, of course. Inside the soft pouch is a set of filters for the Moondrop KATO. It's basically a metal plate with riveted holes so that you can screw the filters into. So the KATO came default with the stainless steel nozzle. So on here are the gold colored brass nozzles. Note that the brass will develop a patina throughout your usage, so don't expect it to be shiny forever. Now we have some warranty cards and social media links if you care about that. We've got an instruction manual printed in what I would assume is Chinese and English. It's not that broken, so there's not a lot of hidden gems in here, but still, it's fine. It's a manual for an earphone. You probably won't need this. If you pre-ordered the KATO, you would also receive a Line K upgrade cable. I did not, so I only have the stock cable, but hey, it's still pretty good. So you've got these silvery strands which are wrapped in a very soft and supple coating. It goes into these sort of thinner wires on the top. I do very much like the look of the Y-splitter and the chin slider. It is just a simple minimalistic metal tube assembly. You can see the Moondrop KATO logo on here. Of course, the shiny metal material means that this is probably going to be a fingerprint magnet, and it'll scratch over time as well. Same goes for the jack part, with some serial number printed on it. The 2-pin connectors are a bit different from the usual Moondrop shape. It's a bit more rounded, but it plugs in the same, and it should be backwards compatible with all other Moondrop products, or any IM that takes the standard 0.78mm 2-pin connections. The left and right connectors are once again printed on the transparent plastic, and it's about as hard to spot IRL as it is on the video right now. I really wish that Moondrop could have added a sort of red rubber O-ring on the right side, kind of like how they're doing in the Moondrop SSP's cable. But yeah, overall, a really nice cable, and I think that Moondrop has finally broken its curse of mediocre or bad cables. I'm looking at you, Aria cable. The shape of the KATO is definitely iterative rather than disruptive. It evokes the similar silhouette that you've seen from the KXSS, Starfield, and Aria. Shiny metal look of the KXSS returns, along with fingerprints of course. This thing's been on my hand for 5 seconds and you can already see the fingerprints accumulating. There's a limited matte edition, which sadly is going to be discontinued due to low yields, but do try and pick that up if you can. Although it is similar looking to previous models, the KATO does manage to feel a bit heftier than both the Moondrop Starfield and Aria in the hand. But luckily the weight will not affect your wearing experience, so no worries. I would say that the Moondrop KATO doesn't really favor any source over the other, at least from my experience. It sounded mostly the same on my LG V20 and my DX150, so whatever source you have, the Moondrop KATO will probably just do its thing. As you know, my ears aren't that great for using foamy, so the mist tips are out of the picture, leaving me with the new spring tips. And you know what? They are pretty good. It takes a while to warm up in your ear and become more soft and comfortable, but once it does, it really is quite comfortable to use. Note that other tips that I tried, like the generic old Moondrop tips, they tended to increase the perceived bass compared to the spring tips, and that's why I'm gonna be using the large size of the Moondrop spring tips. Here's how it fits onto the KATO. Note that these are large sizes, but they actually fit more like a medium size, so if you have bigger ear canals, these spring tips might actually be too small for you. Now, as for the interchangeable nozzles, which supposedly changes the sound, well, after a lot of swinging back and forth, listening to one ear with one nozzle type and vice versa, I would say the brass nozzle is ever so slightly de-emphasizing the high mids and sparkle of the Kato. Just a little bit. Enough that I might still not rule it out of the realm of placebo. So treat these nozzles as nice extras, but they won't drastically change the sound. So when testing the Kato sound, just be noted that I will be using the stainless steel nozzles. And with all those bases covered, let's get into the sound of the Moondrop KATO. The Kato sounds like what you would expect to sound like. It's an upgrade from Starfield, Aria, and KXSS with that familiar Moondrop sound. So I'll be more brief for the parts that haven't much changed and make note of what has changed. Starting with the bass. The Kato presents bass with soft texture. It's sort of similar to other Moondrop offerings, but it now has a bit more impact, so as to not be anemic. It isn't as aggressive as something like the Aria though. It's just got a very refined presentation, bass hits being well defined with a shorter than usual decay. I wouldn't say it's tactile, but it won't be sluggish. It hits just right. Bass bleed is minimal to non-existent as expected. As usual for Moondrop, you have your familiar mids, which have an effervescent feel and vocals that sit a little backwards compared to other instruments, yet are very defined and emotive without being overbearing, delivering nice and accurate timbre. What has improved this time is the technical ability, as the mids of the Kato are much more clearly presented with more separation between different elements of the music. The KXSS also had some shoutiness in the upper mids, which the Kato has for the most part eliminated, and it does that without neutering the vocals. Now, the treble range is where I think Moondrop has done the most work on for the Kato. Other Moondrop IEMs, they tend to treat the highs as secondary. They push it back and make it more subtle compared to the other regions of the frequency range, which, whilst that's a fine take, it does make some songs sound a little dull or for lacking, clarity. Not on the Kato though. They have figured out the treble this time, and I hear a very nice high end with sparkle and clarity, less often heard from harmon type tunings. There's just more separation of instruments and an overall improvement from previous Moondrop implementations. Moondrop's other products haven't really lacked error for, and this Kato just bestows the highs with a near crystalline quality on top of that. I really like it. The only weakness here is the occasional brittleness and graininess on higher volumes for select songs, but by this point I'd be picking nits. This is a clear upgrade from other Moondrop products and is probably gonna be the element to justify your upgrade for sure. If you have listened to the Starfield or the Aria, then the soundstage of the Kato is about the same here. The more somewhat clear sound of Kato might give you a feeling of more space, but yeah, the soundstage ability, it's pretty much about the same as previous offerings, which is to say above average but not spectacular. There is, however, the beginnings of soundstage hype, which, whilst not prominent, does give musical elements some more space to play with within the soundscape. Technicalities is a complete upgrade over lower tiered Moondrop offerings. There is just much better overall separation, a great imaging ability, and a representation of texture in different instruments. Resolution and detail retrieval like this on a single dynamic driver of this price is indeed quite hard to find. Lower tier products, they tend to present macro details more in front to make up for the lack of micro details, but the Kato also does well to capture the subtleties of your music with relative ease, save for the most complex of songs. So usually with other hi-fi brands, their so-called upgrades are often side grades, and they just have a different flavor of tuning, or they're just flat out worse than the original that they are trying to upgrade from. I'm looking at you, Tin Hi-Fi. But not here though. The Kato, it does exactly what you think it does, elevating the performance of its lower price sister models, and it successfully justifies the price increase with better technical performance and something new in this treble implementation that is no longer treated as secondary. I wouldn't say the difference between this and the Aria or Starfield is night and day, but there's clearly more definition and separation of elements than both these models, and as such, it is definitely worth the upgrade. I mean, what more need I say? The Kato is a clear upgrade from its sister models, and presents an upgrade path from the owners of the Aria, the KXSS, and Starfield. It does a lot of things familiar to Moondrop owners, from the housing, the anime packaging, the aesthetics, and the sound. But it's all just better, as suggested by its price tag. So if you have the cash to splash, then the Kato is definitely the hottest Moondrop to get. Well done, Moondrop. Guys, this is Lumerion here, so I'm trying to reach like 50 subs for this channel at the end of the year, so I'd really appreciate it if you like and subscribe. And otherwise, thank you for watching, and bye-bye. Ah!